My jealous manager was power tripping and insulted me, manipulated my schedule, lied about a customer complaint, made up a theft accusation. So my dad showed her who she was really dealing with. From the moment I graduated high school to the day he did it, my self-esteem and self-worth was lower than ever. I'd go to bed crying most days, remembering how my parents drilled it into me that I was a loser ever since I was little. That stuck with me, and in my mind, I was always going to be useless. But then around 6 months after graduating, my aunt came to me. Her eyes were bright, and with a big smile, she offered me a job as a server in her diner. I remember lighting up, ecstatic that someone finally believed in me. But then right as I did, my parents' voices echoed in my ears again. My smile dated, and I told my aunt no because I'd probably do a bad job. Well, she refused to take that for an answer. Her eyes met mine in a warm, loving gaze as she spoke words of encouragement and motivation to me, words I hadn't heard in so long. I was beaming with joy after she was done talking and accepted her offer, and for the first little while, work was fantastic. All the staff were my age, and I even had a work crush, and I'm pretty sure he liked me back. I was making around $100 a day, which meant I could buy a $17 meal without feeling like I was breaking the bank. I was even starting to see myself as a capable person, with each positive customer reviewing filling my heart with more and more pride. Life was good, until my aunt went on holiday, because that's when the manager, Maria, took over. She was a Polish woman, very stern, focused, cold, and blunt. At first, she smiled a lot, but it was the sort of fake forced smile only done by a wolf in sheep's clothing. 3 days into working under her, I had already worked every day back to back, with only 8 hours in between each 12-hour shift. I remember coming on the 4th day, my t-shirt unironed and wrinkly like a crumpled-up note. Maria immediately pulled me into the bathroom. "Do you see what I see?" No. You look disgusting, Charlotte," she interrupted. I wanted to cry. I was overworked to the point of being in one of those moods where I felt like I could break down at any second. I felt tears sting my eyes. Luckily, she left before that happened and didn't see me bawling my eyes out, my tears splashing hard onto the cold bathroom tiles. When Maria came back into the bathroom a few minutes later, she handed me a new t-shirt. I think she saw my tears, but said nothing. It reminded me of when I was little, and I felt my body begin to shut down, but I had no time for that, because it was 6 a.m. on a Monday, which meant we were getting the construction crew, a KA, the worst men known to man. I was used to their comments, from cute and adorable to, "Bet you taste as good as you look," or, "You're walking like you want it." I was pretty much able to just tune it out, but Maria had other ideas. Again, she pulled me aside. "What are you doing to make the man say these things?" I stared at her blankly. "Be a assault on the street, I don't care, but when you walk in here, there will be no funny business." My eyebrows furrowed as I processed what she was saying. It was my first time ever being called that word. I wasn't even angry, just heartbroken. This time I couldn't hold back the tears. I saw a glimpse of regret in her eyes, but that was quickly replaced with sternness, and she left the bathroom. I stared at my fully covered up body in the mirror. There was no way it was my fault, right? I went back to work, turning on the autopilot hospitality part of my brain and turning off my emotions. But during my lunch break, I couldn't hold back. And that's when my work crush, Levi, met me outside. I told him everything. The insult, the men, the Essalot shaming. "She's a crusty, dried up, probably ran through woman projecting onto you. Look at you, Charlotte. You know you get the most tips out of everyone every single day? She's just jealous." My heart fluttered a little at the word jealous, because it meant he thought I was pretty. The thing was, Maria's comments had brought me to such a low I believed them. So I asked Levi to actually be serious and tell me what I was doing wrong to make these men say these things. He looked at me with this charming smile, wiping the remnants of my tears from my cheeks, and told me he was being serious, that I wasn't doing anything wrong, that instead of thinking this was somehow my fault, I should be angry. I realized he was right. I thought about all the times Maria would be covering a shift for my aunt, how she'd always let everyone else eat a meal for free, but I had to pay full price, how she forgot to forward me the email about the work party, and for the first time ever, a storm was brewing inside me. I finally realized none of it was my fault, that it was all her, and she was going to pay. The next day, Maria took things to a whole new level. She accidentally spilled coffee on my shirt and made me buy a new one from the gift shop. Then she assigned me to clean the men's bathroom because she claimed I was the only one who could handle it properly. I found out later she told everyone it was because I liked being around men so much. When my break came, I texted my dad about what was happening. He's always been super protective of me, especially since Mom passed away. Within 5 minutes, he called me back, sounding furious. "You want me to come down there? I'll set this woman straight," he growled into the phone. I almost said yes, but then I remembered how Aunt Karen trusted Maria. I didn't didn't want to mess things up for her business. "No, Dad, I'll handle it. I just needed to vent." "You're sure? Because I could be there in 20 minutes. "I'm sure. Love you." I hung up feeling a little braver. I decided I'd document everything Maria did from now on. Maybe I couldn't confront her directly, but I could at least keep track of all her BS until Aunt Karen came back from her vacation and could see the truth for herself. Little did I know, things were about to get so much worse. The next morning, my alarm blared at 4:30 a.m. Another early shift. I dragged myself out of bed feeling like absolute garbage. My body ached from being on my feet for 12 hours the day before, and all I wanted was to pull the covers over my head and sleep until noon. But I couldn't afford to miss work. Aunt Karen trusted me, and honestly, I needed the money. I forced myself into the shower, hoping the hot water would wake me up. While getting dressed, I triple-checked my uniform. Shirt properly ironed? Check. Pants free of wrinkles? Check. Hair neatly pulled back? Check. I wasn't giving Maria any ammunition today. I got to the diner 15 minutes early, thinking that would impress her. Nope. She barely acknowledged me when I walked in, just glanced at her watch with this annoying little smirk like she was disappointed I wasn't even earlier. "Charlotte, you're on register today," she announced, not even looking at me. Register duty was the worst. No tips, just standing in one spot for hours pushing buttons while everyone else made money. I hadn't been on register since my first week of training. "But I'm always on tables," I said, trying to keep my voice steady. "Not today," Maria replied, walking away before I could argue. I looked over at Levi, who was setting up the coffee station. He shrugged sympathetically, but couldn't say anything with Maria right there. The morning dragged by, painfully slow. I watched as Levi and the other servers hustled around making good tips while I stood there like an idiot. The construction guys came in as usual, but this time they seemed disappointed I wasn't serving them. Small victories, I guess. Around 10 a.m., Maria disappeared into the office. As soon as she was gone, Levi came up to the register. "You know she's only doing this because you made $200 in tips yesterday, right?" he whispered. "What? How do you know how much I made?" "She was going through the tip reports last night. I overheard her telling Cook Mike that you were stealing all the good customers from everyone else." I felt my face getting hot. The tip reports were supposed to be private. Each server reported their own tips at the end of shift for tax purposes. Maria had no business sharing that information with anyone. During my break, I added this to my growing list of Maria's BS that I was keeping in my phone. The list was getting pretty long already. Called me a slut, blamed me for customer harassment, excluded me from work events, made me pay for meals, spilled coffee on me accidentally, made me clean men's bathroom as punishment, looked through my private tip reports, shared my earnings with other staff, moved me to register to prevent tips. I was so focused on my list that I didn't notice Maria standing behind me until she spoke. "What are you writing about me?" I nearly jumped out of my skin, fumbling to lock my phone. "Nothing, just checking messages." She didn't believe me for a second. "Give me your phone." "What?" "No, that's my personal property. You're on company time. If you're texting instead of working, I have a right to know." This was complete BS, and I knew it. "My break doesn't end for 5 more minutes," I said, showing her the time. Maria's eyes narrowed. "Fine. When you're done with your very important texting, the trash needs to be taken out." Taking out the trash wasn't part of the register person's job, but I wasn't about to argue. As soon as she left, I texted Levi. "She almost saw my list about her." He texted back immediately. "Be careful. She's on warpath today." The next few days followed the same pattern. Maria would give me the worst jobs, the worst shifts, and find any excuse to criticize me. On Wednesday, she claimed a customer complained that I was rude, but wouldn't tell me which customer or what I supposedly did. On Thursday, she couldn't find my time card and tried to claim I was an hour late when I definitely wasn't. By Friday, I was at my breaking point. I hadn't made decent tips all week because she kept me off tables. I was exhausted from working split shifts that had me coming in from 6 a.m. to 10 a.m. and then again from 4 p.m. to 10 p.m., which meant I basically couldn't do anything else with my day but go home and nap before coming back. I decided to call Aunt Karen, vacation or not. This was getting ridiculous. But when I tried her number, it went straight to voicemail. I forgot she mentioned something about poor reception at the beach resort. When I got to work Friday morning, Maria had a smug look on her face that instantly made my stomach drop. "Charlotte, could you come into the office, please?" I followed her, already feeling like I was going to throw up. The office was really just a small room with a desk and computer where Aunt Karen did paperwork and kept the safe. Maria closed the door behind us and sat at my aunt's desk like she owned the place. "We need to discuss your performance," she said, pulling out a folder. "I've been documenting some concerning behaviors." My jaw literally dropped. She was documenting me? What behaviors? I asked, trying to keep my voice from shaking. Tardiness, rudeness to customers, dress code violations, and most concerning, she paused dramatically. Suspected theft? Theft, I practically shouted. I have never stolen anything in my life. Maria opened the folder and pulled out a printout of the register totals. Yesterday's register was short $50. You were on register duty all morning. That's impossible, I said, my mind racing. I double count everything. The register was balanced when I signed out for lunch. Well, when I counted at closing, it was short, Maria said with fake sympathy. I'm not accusing you directly, but you were responsible for that register. I knew exactly what she was doing. She was setting me up to get fired. My eyes started to burn with tears of frustration, but I refused to cry in front of her again. I want to talk to Aunt Karen, I said firmly. Karen is on vacation, and she left me in charge. I've already emailed her about the situation, Maria replied, looking way too pleased with herself. For now, I think it's best if you take a few days off while we sort this out. She was suspending me over something I didn't do. I stormed out of the office, grabbed my bag, and left without saying goodbye to anyone. I was so angry I could barely see straight. As soon as I got to my car, I burst into tears. How was this happening? I finally had a job I liked, with people I liked, and this woman was ruining everything. My phone buzzed with a text from Levi. What happened? I was typing out a response when another text came through. Never mind. Maria just announced you're suspended for stealing from register. I know that's BS. I called him immediately, and thankfully he answered. I explained everything through my tears. This is insane, Levi said, sounding genuinely angry. Maria's been gunning for you since day one, but this is crossing a line. What am I supposed to do? I asked, wiping my face. Aunt Karen won't be back for another week, and Maria's probably telling her I'm a thief right now. I don't know yet, but we'll figure it out. I'm off at 3. Can I come over after? The thought of Levi coming to my house made me nervous, but in a good way. Yeah, that would be great. I'll text you my address. I spent the next several hours alternating between crying, raging, and staring at my phone hoping Aunt Karen would call. By the time Levi showed up at my door, I was emotionally exhausted. I brought reinforcements, he said, holding up a bag of takeout from our competitor diner down the street, and information. We sat at my kitchen table and he filled me in on what had happened after I left. Apparently, Maria had gathered everyone together and announced that I was suspended pending an investigation into missing funds. She made it sound like this had been happening for weeks and they'd finally caught me. But here's the thing, Levi said, leaning forward. Mike from the kitchen said he saw Maria messing with the register after you left for lunch yesterday. He thought she was just doing a midday count, but now he's not so sure. My heart started racing. So she set me up. She actually took money from the register to frame me? I think so. Levi nodded. And I also think you're not the first person she's done this to. He pulled out his phone and showed me a Facebook post from 6 months ago. It was from a girl named Amanda who used to work at the diner before I started. Her post complained about being fired for something she didn't do, and how the new manager had it out for her from day one. This sounds exactly like what's happening to you, Levi said. I bet Maria's been doing this for a while, getting rid of servers she sees as competition or threats. But why? I asked. What does she gain from it? Levi hesitated. I think she might be skimming money from the diner and blaming it on employees she fires. If she's been catching people stealing small amounts every few months, she could be taking much more without anyone noticing. My mind was reeling. This wasn't just about jealousy or power trips. Maria was actively stealing from Aunt Karen's business. She was targeting young, attractive servers who earned good tips, accusing them of theft, and using it as cover to skim money for herself. The pattern was crystal clear now. We need proof, I said finally. Otherwise, it's just her word against mine, and she's the manager. Levi nodded, taking a bite of his burger. I've been thinking about that. The office has security cameras, but Maria knows where they are. The main floor cameras don't cover the register area well enough to see her taking money. What about the daily reports? I asked, remembering how Aunt Karen always printed and filed each day's sales. Wouldn't those show discrepancies? Maybe, but Maria's the one who handles those now, Levi said, looking frustrated. She could easily adjust them before your aunt sees them. We spent the next hour brainstorming ways to catch Maria in the act. None of our ideas seemed foolproof. Either they relied on other employees risking their jobs to help us, or they involved complicated schemes we weren't sure we could pull off. Finally, my phone rang. It was my dad. Hey honey, I was just checking in. Haven't heard from you in a couple days. I hadn't told him about being suspended yet, but suddenly I realized I needed his help. I put the phone on speaker and filled him in on everything, with Levi occasionally adding details. When I finished, my dad was silent for a moment. Then he said, "This woman accused my daughter of stealing and suspended her without proof?" "Yes," I admitted, "and I don't know what to do, Dad. I'll tell you what we're going to do," he said, his voice deadly calm in that way that always meant trouble for whoever had upset him. "First, we're going to document everything. Then we're going to set a trap." My dad worked in risk management for a bank, so he knew a thing or two about catching people who were stealing money. He walked us through a plan that was so simple it just might work. The next morning, I went to the diner during Saturday breakfast rush, their busiest time. I knew Maria wouldn't make a scene with so many customers around. I spotted Levi immediately, and he gave me a subtle nod. I walked straight up to Maria, who was seating customers. Her face went from professional smile to cold glare in an instant. "Charlotte, you're not supposed to be here," she hissed. "I forgot my jacket in the break room yesterday," I said loudly enough for nearby customers to hear. "I just need to grab it and I'll leave." She couldn't exactly say no without looking suspicious, so she reluctantly nodded. "Be quick about it." I went to the break room, taking my time. When I came out, my dad was at the counter talking to Maria, just as we'd planned. From my position, I could see his phone on the counter, recording their entire conversation. "I'm Charlotte's father," he was saying. "I'm concerned about these allegations against my daughter." Maria looked uncomfortable but maintained her professional demeanor. "I understand your concern, but this is a private business matter that should be discussed with the owner. My sister is on vacation," my dad said smoothly. "And since you've accused my daughter of theft, I think I deserve some answers now." Maria's eyes widened slightly. She hadn't known Aunt Karen was my dad's sister. I never accused her directly. The register was simply short, and she was responsible for it. "How much was missing exactly?" my dad asked, slipping into his professional investigator voice. $50, Maria said firmly. "And you counted the register yourself?" "Yes, of course. Both before and after Charlotte's shift?" Maria hesitated. No, I trusted her to start with the correct amount. "So you have no proof the money was there to begin with," my dad pointed out. "It could have been missing before her shift started." Maria's face flushed. "That's not the point. She signed for a balance drawer at the start of her shift." "May I see that signature?" my dad asked. We don't have formal signatures, just initials on the daily report." My dad nodded, as if this confirmed something. "I see. And where are these reports kept?" "In the office, of course. Would you mind showing me yesterday's report? Since my niece owns this establishment, I'm sure she wouldn't mind me reviewing financial documents in her absence." Maria was trapped. If she refused, she'd look suspicious. If she showed him, he might spot inconsistencies in her record-keeping. I'll need to check with Karen first," she stammered. "By all means," my dad said pleasantly. "Call her right now. I'm happy to wait." Maria knew Aunt Karen wasn't answering her phone consistently. She was cornered. Just then, Cook Mike appeared at the pass-through window. "Maria, can I talk to you about yesterday's register count?" Maria's face went ghost white. She looked like she was about to bolt for the door. "What do you mean?" she asked Mike, her voice all shaky. "I saw you counting the register yesterday after Charlotte left," Mike said, wiping his hands on his apron. "You pulled out some bills and put them in your pocket. I thought you were making change or something." Oh, my God. Mike had actually seen her stealing. I couldn't believe our luck. I was standing there with my mouth hanging open while my dad smoothly pulled out a chair. "Why don't we all sit down and discuss this?" he suggested in that super calm voice that somehow made it clear he wasn't actually making a suggestion. Maria's eyes darted around the diner like a cornered animal. The breakfast rush was in full swing, with customers everywhere. She couldn't make a scene. "This is ridiculous," she sputtered. "Mike is obviously confused." "I know what I saw," Mike insisted, crossing his arms. He was this big burly guy with tattoos up and down his arms. Nobody messed with Mike. And it wasn't the first time either. My dad pulled out his phone and stopped the recording. "I think we should continue this conversation in the office, where it's more private." Maria reluctantly led us to the office, probably because she didn't know what else to do. Levi caught my eye as we walked past, and I gave him a tiny nod. Our plan was working even better than we'd hoped. Once we were in the office, my dad went straight into investigator mode. "Maria, multiple staff members have observed suspicious behavior regarding the handling of cash. Charlotte has been documenting a pattern of targeted harassment, and now you've falsely accused her of theft." "You can't prove anything," Maria snapped, finally dropping the nice manager act. "Actually, I can," my dad replied, pulling a folder from his jacket. "Wait, what? This wasn't part of our plan. I had no idea what was in that folder." I took the liberty of contacting 2 former employees, Amanda Torres and Jason Kim. Both were fired for alleged theft under your management. Both deny the accusations. Both describe the same pattern of behavior that Charlotte has experienced. My dad had been busy during the 24 hours since I'd called him. While Levi and I were planning our amateur confrontation, my dad had been conducting a full investigation, contacting former employees and building a proper case against Maria. Maria's face turned from white to red. "This is absurd. I've been nothing but professional." "You called my daughter a slut," my dad said, his voice ice cold. "There's nothing professional about that." I'd never told my dad about that specific insult. He must have heard it from Levi. Maria looked like she'd been slapped. "I never," she started. "Yes, you did," I interrupted. "In the bathroom after the construction guys were making gross comments. You blamed me for it and called me a slut." Maria glared at me. "You're making this up." My dad calmly placed 3 witness statements on the desk. "Levi, Mike, and Samantha all provided written accounts of your behavior toward Charlotte. The pattern is clear." I was shocked. My dad had been busy. While Levi and I were coming up with our amateur plan, my dad had been building an actual case. "What do you want?" Maria finally asked, her accent thicker with stress. "2 things," my dad replied. "First, you're going to write a full confession about the money you took from the register. Second, you're going to resign immediately. And if I don't, then when Karen returns, she'll receive these statements, the recording from today, and a recommendation to file a police report for theft. Maria's shoulders slumped. She knew she was caught. Fine, I'll resign, but I'm not writing any confession. Oh, I think you will, my dad said, sliding a piece of paper across the desk. Because I've also contacted the owner of the diner where you worked before this one. Apparently they fired you for suspected theft but couldn't prove it. One more incident on your record, and you'll never work in food service again. I had no idea if that was true or if my dad was bluffing, but it worked. Maria grabbed a pen and started writing. While she wrote, my dad texted Aunt Karen. I peeked at his screen and saw, had to handle a situation at the diner. Call me when you can. Everything's under control now. When Maria finished writing, my dad read it over carefully. This will do. Now clean out your personal items and leave. I'll be watching to make sure you don't take anything that doesn't belong to you. 20 minutes later, Maria walked out the door for good. The staff watched in stunned silence as she left. As soon as the door closed behind her, everyone broke into whispers. My dad turned to me. Well, looks like the diner needs a temporary manager until Karen returns. Think you're up for it? Me? I squeaked. I've only worked here for like 2 months. But you care about this place and these people trust you, he pointed out. Plus, I'll help you with anything you need. I looked around at the staff, at Mike giving me a thumbs up, at Samantha smiling encouragingly, and at Levi, who was looking at me like I was some kind of hero. Okay, I said, I'll do it. The next week was crazy busy, but in a good way. I had to learn all the manager stuff super fast, but everyone pitched in to help. My dad came by every day after his work to help me balance the books and make sure everything was running smoothly. When Aunt Karen finally returned and heard the whole story, she was furious about Maria, but proud of me for standing up for myself. She officially promoted me to assistant manager, with a real salary and everything. You've got good instincts, she told me, and the staff respects you. That's not something you can teach. I felt my self-esteem growing stronger every day. The brain fog that had plagued me since high school gradually lifted as I threw myself into learning every aspect of running the diner. Oh, and Levi finally asked me out properly. We went to dinner at this fancy Italian place where he couldn't stop telling me how amazing I'd been handling everything. Our first kiss happened in the parking lot afterward, and it was definitely worth the wait. Sometimes I think about how close I came to letting Maria destroy my confidence all over again. If I hadn't fought back, if Levi hadn't encouraged me, if my dad hadn't swooped in with his investigator skills, who knows where I'd be now. Instead, here I am 6 months later, helping Aunt Karen open a second location. The brain fog is completely gone. Turns out I'm actually really good at something after all, and that something might just become my career. Maria? Last I heard she moved to another state. Hopefully she's not terrorizing some other poor server somewhere, but if she is, I hope they fight back too.